What's up, Hoof listeners? Welcome to week 9 of the NFL as we fly through the season. Sitting here with Anthony. Hope everybody had a good Halloween, but we are on to Thanksgiving, the next great holiday.
Yeah, it's a football holiday at least, right? Halloween's my favorite holiday of the year. I think everybody who knows me knows that. We always do double costumes at least, if not more. Multiple weekends of celebrating. Now that I have a kid, my son, it's all about him. So our costumes this year were Spidey and his amazing spider friends. So
Nice.
Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and Gwen Stacy as Ghost Spider. So my wife and I and Logan dressed up. And then the other one was from the TV show PJ Masks, which is another Disney show, superhero kids. So Logan was Catboy, and I was the villain whose name happens to be Romeo, and he's a mad scientist. So I just loved it. I'm like, that's perfect. My name's Romeo, and I'm a mad scientist.
This
So it
feels like
worked.
this feels like copyright infringement.
Exactly. They must have been following me around when they wrote it. But yeah, it was a great costume, very fun. Kathy was Owlette for that one. Yeah. And we went multiple weekends trick-or-treating. Logan's
Nice.
just getting into it now that he's almost 3. And,
Okay.
he understood it and was like, yay, candy. But he's not begging for all the candy yet, which is nice.
So you're one of those families that does a new costume every year.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? And now that we're having another baby, next year is going to be, even more creative. So I'm looking forward to it. Number one reason to have kids is to dress them up for Halloween. So more people to do the theme with.
Yeah, sounds like a theater, something that would come from a theater kid. But because I've had the same 2 costumes for 5 years now, and I just reused the same 2. It's Jack Skeleton and Dale Earnhardt.
Well,
And
hey, Jack Skellington's always a great one. Dale
yeah,
Earnhardt, I like that. That's
it's a
good
good
too.
one.
Yeah.
Well, Dale Earnhardt Jr., so it's the
Junior.
Mountain
Okay.
Dew costume. But I bought that just to be a race car driver. My wife was like a flag girl that one year, but that costume fits great and it's just easy to put on and ready to rock.
There you
So I've
go.
reused it about 3 times.
Yeah.
So,
But Halloween now is over and we move on to Thanksgiving, which is all about football, of course. A little bit of dinner, but mainly watching football. I mean, that's the tradition of Thanksgiving.
sure.
The Pilgrims met and watched football, right? That's what it's all about.
Well, they started playing during the dinner, I heard.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday just because it's simple, right? You just eat, you enjoy time with the friends and family. There's no pressure. Like Christmas is chaos for us,
Oh, December holiday.
having a good dinner.
Don't even get me started. I'm already seeing the commercials for December holiday, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? It's the day after Halloween."
I know.
I
went to Home Depot like 2 weeks ago, and there's Christmas stuff everywhere. So I'm like, okay, let's let it breathe a little bit. I mean, it's still 80 degrees out.
Yeah. And people call me a Grinch. I'm like, no, come on. It's just don't throw it in my face 2 months early. You get your holidays at the end of December. It's not even the end of October and we're getting stuff. So yeah, I can't stand it.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I know the economic impact. That's why Home Depot, like they make a shitload of money off Christmas.
Exactly.
But people seem to be okay with it. Right?
They spend their money on it. So
you don't see any outrage on Twitter or anything about Christmas coming out too early. But maybe I'm not looking in the right place.
Yeah. There's a few of us out there.
Yeah. I'll have to read your Twitter a little more. All right, we got Thursday night football kicking off right now. Real quick, Tennessee at Pittsburgh. Tennessee +3. Will Levis, big story here. Just want to touch on this right before kickoff so we can get it in.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of what Will Levis showed. We talked way back in the preseason about how long is it going to take for Tannehill to get pulled. Well, now he's quote unquote injured, and they had to put in the rookie. And dude, he shined very brightly last week, throwing so many touchdowns, making D-Hop look like the piece that they brought in for a reason. Now I think, playing the Steelers have been up and down, but man, they've continued to find ways to win games that are close. However, I picked Tennessee in this one with the points. I just think that Will Levis has energized that team in a new way. So we'll see how it works out, but definitely looking forward to seeing if Tennessee can continue to build on what they had. Derrick Henry a little banged up this week, but supposed to play, so we'll see what he can do too. Steelers defense obviously very good. Their offense suspect at best, but has been a lot better since Johnson has come back. Yeah,
Kenny Pickett's playing, right?
Yeah.
Good news there.
Right, he was questionable, but
Yeah, so I'm taking the Steelers. Just 4-2. They got the good defense, right? Will Levis, had a great game last week, but now there's a little film out there. I think this will be a big challenge, and we do see rookies play well, like really well for a while, then it kind of fades off. But I just feel like Pittsburgh has the edge because Will Levis only playing in the second game here in Week 9. So I think Pittsburgh gets at home, right? Prime time. You're in the mix. I think they'll play mistake free and get the win here.
We'll see. Yeah, it should be a good game to watch at least, especially a Thursday night game. We know how that goes usually, but hopefully it's entertaining.
Yeah, for sure. Let's touch on the Bills made some moves at the deadline. And then they signed a couple players as well. Leonard Fournette, probably the bigger name. Linval Joseph, another player. I feel like they had interest in him a few years back. He's now 35.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But I feel like Brandon Beane's had his eye on Joseph, the defensive tackle, for quite some time now, but finally gets the opportunity to bring him in. Rumor, what I read anyway, was he can bench 600 pounds.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. And if you've ever seen a picture of the guy, he's humongous. He's one of the biggest dudes you'll ever see. Very round, very, very shapely. But for a defensive tackle, I mean, that's what you want. A guy who's going to stuff and stop. And, that's what he's really there to do. At his age, could be a concern. He's not going to be as energetic or bendy as he was, back in his heyday. But still, reinforcements were needed at the D-line. We know that. We saw what they've been without Daquan Jones. It's been a problem, especially against the run. And although they've looked better at times, we still need depth and protection there. Poona Ford has not been fully what we expected him to be. Neither has Tim Settle. Both kind of role-playing guys. I think they still will see time. It's not like I expect Joseph to come in and all of a sudden be the starter and play all the snaps or anything. But yeah, it should be a good to have depth and ability to see who's the guy who's going to make it work, right? Versus what we've seen so far kind of not working as well. Tampa Bay, I think, is an outlier because they just were terrible at running the ball. But, and that was the best game they looked so far without Daquan Jones anyway.
Sure. Yeah, that's true. And it does say here on Joseph's Wikipedia. So in powerlifting, in addition to football, he recorded lifts of 415-pound bench press, 560-pound squats. That is some serious muscle. But again,
That's
35 years old. This is in the past. This is back, 10, 15 years ago. But still, that is some serious weight to be lifting. So anyway, yeah, good pickup. I think it's you can add him to the rotation. Don't think he starts or anything like that, but can bring him in fresh, and I think he can help fill that role that Daquan Jones is leaving. How about Leonard Fournette? How are you feeling about him?
Yeah,
like he came in shape. Everyone's wondering, is he in shape? Is he in football shape? There was a photo posted on BuffaloBills.com where his hamstring muscles were just coming out of the shorts.
Yeah.
Again, everyone's in shape in the NFL.
Exactly.
Conditioning.
He's an athlete. I think that's the main part. You expect them to be in shape. They wouldn't be here if they weren't, or wouldn't have passed the physical, wouldn't have brought him in. It's a great depth move, right? He's not suddenly going to be getting snaps every game, right? This is protection against if Harris is out longer than expected, which could be, or it's nothing. We're not paying him a ton of money. He's not active roster going to be getting the snaps, taking snaps away from Cook or even Latavius Murray at this point, although he could, I guess, if he balances in. But he's very much a player of that kind of caliber, right? You can give him the ball, you can expect him to pound the rock, and he can make a catch and make guys miss and have a big play every once in a while. So I don't expect that anymore from him, but certainly it's possible, right? It's good to have that potential. It's good to have that depth again. Yeah,
and I think this guy's played a lot of football, right? Jacksonville, had a long career in Jacksonville, goes to Tampa, gets the Super Bowl ring, knows what it takes, been on a championship team. I think there's some value to that. Again, I think he just gets a few carries maybe here and there, unless it starts to turn into something later in the season, right? Historically, he's been somebody you can rely on to punch it up the middle, kind of a power back. Obviously, at this age, missing the training camp, missing a lot of games early in the season. Expect him to be kind of it's going to take a while for him to get up to speed and get involved in the offense. So will be interesting to see. I think it's a good value pickup for the situation they're in, right? They need that third back. Those plays they drew up for Damian Harris, you can now put those back in the playbook. But, and how about Rasul Douglas coming over from Green Bay?
At first, this was not something that excited me. I was like, okay, I don't really know Rasul Douglas. Okay, it's a cornerback move. I was more thinking we needed linebacker, not that there is a lot out there, right? The overreaction on Twitter is always the same, right? We're going to get Davante Adams.
Outrage. Yeah.
We're going to find a way to get D-Hop, even though his team just won a game. Like, what are you talking about? Like, no, those moves never happen and rarely happen. And when they do, it's not, in the middle of the season usually. So, same thing here. Rasul Douglas at first, Twitter, this is who they get. This isn't good enough. And I was more like, okay, so we got depth at cornerback, which we needed, by the way, right? Beyond when you're Josh Norman's on the active roster coming off the street with his walker, that's pretty dangerous. So, I mean, we definitely needed some cornerback help. And this is a guy who's under contract for another year. You get a chance to bring him in, see what he can do, and have that depth protection, because we don't know when Trey White will be back, if ever, with his injuries. And now this, after looking more into his stats, what he's played like, how he's playing this year, where he's come from. He came from nothing, had a rough start, worked his way back, signed with the Packers, has been playing very well. I think there was something that said like he's 12th in the NFL against yards per catch or whatever. And so he's playing very well. So a guy like that coming in does excite me a little bit, to be an upgrade, or at least a partner with a guy like Dane Jackson, right? So some depth, some protection there. He's certainly not somebody who's lighting it up for me, being like, wow, this is going to be the most amazing addition ever. But we knew that likely the only moves that were going to be made at the trade deadline were ones that are complementary, not something earth-shattering. And this is very much a complementary, help us continue in the right direction rather than, momentum shifting.
For sure. He does have 10 interceptions the past 3 seasons.
Ball hawk.
That includes 1 this season, 4 last season with Green Bay, 5 the year before that. In 2021, actually had 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, does look like a player, kind of was buried in the depth chart for a while, and finally got into a starting role and looked comfortable. But, yeah, like Brandon Beane said, I think it just instincts, right? And that's what they like about him. And I think when you go back and watch the highlights or the film, you can kind of see that, right? He does have good instincts, at least as of late, past few years. So I think it's a good value pickup again. They did need some sort of depth at corner. And I think, again, CB2, I think Benford's definitely the starter every game. And then that second cornerback position will be game by game, right? It'd be game plan by game plan. So,
and everything I've heard about the guy's attitude as well, like he was a leader in that Green Bay locker room, and that he's very much a process guy, right? McDermott's mouth must have been watering to get this guy, a cornerback who's, processed through and through, all about the team, has good leadership, and plays well on the field. It's no surprise when you put that together. If you put them blindly on a sheet of paper and listed those things, I think every Bills fan would have been like, oh, they're definitely going to get this guy, just knowing that those are the types of guys that Beane and McDermott go after.
For sure. So, yeah, some good moves. I mean, it shows the fans, hey, we are trying to fill these spots so we can stay competitive.
Yeah.
I think everyone feels pretty good about the moves and didn't overspend, really, right?
And the noise out there about like, oh, we didn't go all in or whatever. You can't. Other team has to agree to the trade too, right?
Yeah.
You can't just throw picks out there. Oh, we're going to give up 2 first-rounders for Davante Adams. Well, if the Raiders don't want to give up Davante Adams, they're not going to give up Davante Adams, right?
They're about a week late, right? I feel like Mark Davis should have fired the coach and GM 2 weeks ago. Then maybe that would be an option.
Then you could trade things away.
Right.
But
it's also a pretty big contract.
We were talking
I don't think the Bills could afford it.
When we were talking in our group chat, that's what I said, right? The first thing I said is, I'm just surprised they didn't make any moves. The Raiders made no moves, and then they fired their coach and GM. It's like, okay, you could have recouped some of those picks and gotten something out of it, because clearly you're moving in another direction. I mean, a new coach is going to want to bring in their guys and start all over. It's going to be messy, especially with Jacobs. Jacobs is a free agent. I mean, at least Adams is under contract, but Jacobs is a free agent. Who knows where he's going to end up?
And I think the Raiders are going to be a mess now, right? Jacobs likely gone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Devontae Adams was there to play with Derek Carr. You know, he's probably looking to get out as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I doubt he sticks around for quarterback development.
No, I'm sure he'll get traded in the off season, but where there's more play and teams can plan for it a little better.
That's pretty big news too.
But still, yeah, I mean, the Bills might be a play for him in the offseason if they want to be. Same with the Jaquan Johnson story, right? The Bills were in on him, according to sources, or Jalen Johnson. That's right. Jalen Johnson, the cornerback from the Bears. They were in on him, conversations, and just didn't happen, right? Likely because he wanted an extension that paid him pretty well. And we'll see what happens in the offseason. This is definitely going to be a position where I think the Bills are going to look to address either in the draft or in free agency. So yeah, I think obviously with their interest being noted, they're going to at least have conversations with him in the offseason and see how high his price ends up going. I'm sure there's going to be somebody who will outbid the Bills, though, in their current condition. I'm not expecting anything.
Right, that's a good point. And there's always a lot of teams that can pay more, right? The Bills are always picking late in the first round. They're a little bit cap strapped. So yeah, it's very unlikely, to say the least. All right, let's get into. We got a lot of big games to get to. We're going to start with the Bills Bengals, but let's just take a look at the standings here. I feel like this is the week where there's some separation is going to start to happen, right? There's a lot of teams, kind of in the mix. If you look at like the AFC North, every team's in the mix, but there will be some separation over the course of the next few weeks, starting with this week. A lot of big games. And with the added playoff spot, there's a little more competition, right, to get those final three spots, right? It's easier to get in than it used to be, right? So something to keep in mind too as we go through the picks. A lot of key games. Bills this is a key game for them on the season. Is this going to be a 5-4 season that you're going to have to, claw your way out of, or are you going to get the jump here against Cincinnati and go to 6-4 and feel good going to play Denver and then the New York Jets? So I had 2 winnable games, I think. Jets a little weird, but Denver should be winnable. But
Jets at home though, so that's an advantage. This game. It's funny because last week you and I went through game by the schedule, and I still got the Bills to 12 wins, and it did not include a win against Cincinnati. But what I said then holds true now. I said, don't get me wrong, next week I'm going to tell you all the ways the Bills are going to win this game because that's just what we do. But ultimately I did say that this would be a loss. Now I'm like into it and feeling, because it's this week, the Bills can win this game. There's no question about it. If this game isn't competitive, the Bills are in trouble, right? But I expect this game to be competitive and back and forth and everything. I know that the Bills can win this game, right? There's no question in my mind that we can win this game. Obviously, the last time we faced them, we got our butts beat. And when we faced them in the DeMar Hamlin game before that incident, they were kicking our butts then too. So it just seemed like we don't know what to expect versus Cincinnati. And let me get this out of the way too. I've also seen this week the people who are statistics nuts going off the frickin' rails. Okay. Don't be stupid. Okay. Numbers aren't everything. The Cincinnati Bengals suck in DVOA and every other statistic this year. Why? Because their quarterback was hurt. Okay. For the first few weeks, because they were without T. Higgins. Everybody's like, oh, Tyler Boyd is second in the team in targets. Yeah, because T. Higgins was injured for 3 games.
Right.
Like,
then
what are you
he had the dropsies for a while, right? He had a lot of targets, but then would drop the ball, right? Kind of lost the trust.
T. Higgins is not living up to expectation, but the dude is still the number 2 receiver and a dominant one at that in the NFL. So don't get it twisted. Again, people are looking at the stats and saying the Bills are number 3 or 2, whatever it is in DVOA. And it's like, guys, the Bills offense is pathetic right now. Like, we have not been living up to expectations. The Tampa game did not make me feel any better about it. They were up tempo. They did that, but they still didn't close the game start to finish. They gave up at the half. They just said, okay, we scored points, we're done. No, that's not how football works. It's 4 quarters. You have to play 4 quarters. And if the only way the Bills win this game is if the offense shows up and plays 4 quarters. If you play 3, you lose. If you play 2, you lose. Okay? Play 4 quarters of football the way you can play, and you will be in it, to say the least, right? Doesn't mean the defense won't play absolutely shitty and somehow the Bengals are going to score more points. I'm just saying the offense alone needs to play well from start to finish. And, we have yet to see that this season, I'd say, other than like during the Miami game, maybe.
Maybe weeks 2 through 4, right?
Yes, but we won those games, but it still was like, oh, okay, we're leading by 40 points after 3 quarters, so let's just run out the clock, right? We have not had to play 4 quarters in this season yet, right? We have not been in a shootout.
We've had to, but they haven't. Right. That's what you're saying.
Right. Yes, they have not had to go toe-to-toe with somebody for 4 quarters. In each of those games that we won by 30 points, it was a blowout by the time it got to the 4th quarter, and the backup was in with 5 minutes or more left, right? So, it's different when you have to go blow for blow, dominant back and forth, just like we know when we play Kansas City, it always happens that way, right? You're going, it's gonna be score for score, stop them when you can, take advantage of their mistakes. All those types of things apply to this game against Cincinnati as well. And they've had our number. Why? I don't know. I don't think it's all of a sudden, their defense has mastermind how to beat Josh Allen. No. And I don't think it's, their offense just knows how to target the McDermott defense. It's a little bit of luck and a little bit of strategy, and the fact that
they're balanced,
the Cincinnati Bengals, yeah, exactly. They're well balanced. They have Joe Mixon. They've got good passers, good pass catchers. They Joe Burrow might not even be playing his best right now, but he's certainly looked well the past few weeks.
What scares me about Cincinnati is the balance, right? It's Joe Burrow with his precision passes on key downs, especially, and then they can run the football better than any, up there with the best teams in the league, right? When Joe Mixon's on and they're having a good day, he's dangerous, right? And that causes a lot of problems for the defense, right? The disguises don't work as good because you're just running people over at the line. So that's something to pay attention to, and that's going to cause problems. But I feel like McDermott, they know that they got their butts kicked in the playoff game. I think every player on the Bills would admit that, right? The Damar Hamlin game didn't look pretty, but now I think they have this one circled, right? Because they've been beat down twice, right? And there's going to be a lot of emotion in this game with the Damar Hamlin thing back to Cincinnati, the whole thing, right? But McDermott's going to have a good game plan, because Joe Burrow's had his number to this point. Right. Yes. So fully expect maybe some new looks, maybe a little different strategy than we've seen on defense. And then, like you said, it's blow for blow. So it's got to play mistake-free football all day. Right. And that's your only shot. And we've seen this with the Cincinnati and Kansas City games, right? They're blow for blow until someone makes a mistake or time runs out. And that's just how it's been. Right.
Yeah. And you've got to be able to.
That's how the Bengals have beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. They're the only team to really beat the Chiefs in the playoffs the past 4 seasons.
Yeah, and that's, again, some of it is luck with timing and how you work the ball, which in a way doesn't give me hope, because I'd say that's one of McDermott's weaknesses and always has been from day one in the league, is his management of the clock, of time. I was critical last week, as you know, when we had whatever it was, 48 seconds and 2 timeouts, and they were just completely content running out the clock. And it's like, dude, give your offense a chance to get in field goal range. If friggin' the Chiefs can do it in 12 seconds, Josh Allen and our team can do it just as well, right? Just 2 passes down the field and you're in field goal range if you make it work. A couple of plays, you have timeouts, try. He never tries. He's so conservative. People are defending him, saying, he's not conservative. Bull crap. McDermott is conservative. He's not hyper conservative, but he's definitely conservative. He doesn't go for it in those situations. And in a game like that game, those 3 points, had we gotten them, would have made a lot of difference when there's a Hail Mary going down in the air when you're only down 6 points or up 6 points. That's not good, right? You put yourself in a bad position because you weren't aggressive in those situations. The 4th downs, obviously, that's different. But in a game like this against the Bengals, a much superior opponent, you can't afford to do those stupid mistakes. Like you said, you can't afford to have coaching be the reason you lose. Okay. That is, you don't want to be out coached. That is embarrassing. And it could happen in this game, but hopefully the promising things we saw against Tampa Bay with getting Khalil Shakir involved, which was one of the points I made earlier, right? That you asked me. I said, look, one of these guys has to become the guy. It seems now that Khalil Shakir has kind of stepped into that role as the number one of the number threes, if that makes sense.
Right. And Gabe Davis too, right? They got involved in a different way.
No.
He had a good game last week.
Great. Stop it. Again, the ignorance I hear around this stuff is stupid. I love Gabe Davis. I'm a Bills fan. I want him to have an excellent season. Every week we overbloat Gabe Davis, right? Every week. It's, oh my God, he got 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's the most amazing number 2 receiver ever. And then in the next game, he has 2 drops and 5 total yards. And, oh, he's the worst number 2 receiver ever. The guy is inconsistent. That's what he does. I'm glad he had a good game. Does that mean I'm relying on him to show up ever again? No, you cannot rely on Gabe Davis. So that conversation is done. That ship has sailed. He has big games. He's capable of doing well. Yes, if he has 3 touchdowns and 100+ yards, I'm not surprised. Nobody should be. He's capable of doing that. But he's also capable of completely disappearing, not getting open, dropping passes, and turning into a scumbag, right? So you can't rely on that. A guy like Khalil Shakir, well, the 2 games before that, Gabe Davis was the reason we lost, and I will take that to my grave. Like his mistakes both times in both those previous games were reasons we lost the game. Momentum killers, changers. So and now all of a sudden he has a good game. People want to praise him again. That's great. I praise him too. I want him to have a great season. I hope he does well again and finds consistency going into his contract with another team next year. So yeah, that ship has sailed. Khalil Shakir, however, catches everything thrown his way. Dalton Kincaid, however, catches literally everything thrown his way. Those 2 guys are reliable. And that's what this offense needs to be able to click and get things going. I mean, how many passes have those 2 dropped? I'd be surprised if it's over 3 incompletions their way this season, right? It's insane. Every target they get, they catch. So I would rather that be what you rely on, and then allow Gabe Davis to be big play Gabe when he gets open down the field or reliable. They did use him in different ways, which was promising, but overbloating that as something you can rely on, it's just not probable. We've seen 4 seasons of Gabe Davis. We know what he is at this point. And the rest of the guys are the ones who need to step up. And hopefully that means Kincaid finding a bigger role, Shakir, those 2 guys are reliable. So if it's 3rd and short, I want the ball going to one of them, you know? And obviously Diggs is Diggs. We know you could go to him on every play, but he's going to get covered and he's going to be what the defense is, you know, still targeting around.
And again, our sample size on Khalil Shakir is pretty small, right? He's had 10 targets the last 2 games. He's only had 1 target per game all season.
Yes, but he's building up.
They're giving him more and more action. Mm-hmm. And his yards per target, 15 yards, right? So that's, you know, it's not just screen plays and bubble screens.
No.
But yeah, 10 for 10, 10 targets, 10 catches. But again, sample size is small. We've really only seen Khalil Shakir involved in the offense for 2 weeks. Gabe Davis, on the other hand, had a 100-yard game against Jacksonville, 87 yards this past week against Tampa, 12 targets, 9 receptions. On the season so far, 47 targets, 31 receptions. So he's much more involved in the game plan, right? Because you almost really can't even compare them yet. Yeah, and in the game where he had 100 yards, it was 12 yards per target. And then last week it was 7 yards per target. So a little shorter, and I think that's got to build his confidence a little because against New England, he had 5 targets, 1 catch, right? So it just wasn't working, not on the same page. But yeah, I kind of agree with it. He disappears at times. You know, when you watch the film a little bit, you can see kind of not in the same page with Josh like we've seen in the past, right? They've had good chemistry in the past, like in the playoff game, obviously. And that seems to kind of gone away a little bit, right? So there's definitely some room for Gabe Davis to grow, but the team themselves are involving Gabe Davis and not Khalil Shakir until just recently, right? So we'll see how that plays out. Going to be interesting, but yeah, someone's got to step up. We've talked about it all week. This is not a team that has a T. Higgins and a Tyler Boyd as your number 3 or 4 receiver. You know, those guys could probably easily be the number 2 in the Bills, right? So that's kind of what you're looking at.
Easily is right. The other big matchup, I think, is the Bills' offensive line took a big step in the Tampa game, very consistent, had time to throw, had time to run. but Tampa is a much inferior opponent without Vita Vea, right? Their best pass rusher. Versus the Bengals defense. I know they had some injuries on the defensive line, but I think I just looked it up, and Hendrickson was a limited participant today, which is a good trending that he's likely to play Sunday versus the Bills. I think that challenge is the Bills' offensive line has to live up to that challenge and play like they did against Tampa and not like they did the past 2 weeks before that, where it was literally like Swiss cheese every play. Somebody was screwing up every play and getting in Josh Allen's face. We need to keep him clean in order to do what we said and stay going toe-to-toe with the Bengals offense. And our defense is capable of making that big play that could make the difference in the game, right? The takeaway, the sack, whatever it is, they are very capable of targeting that. And again, the opposite is true. The Bengals offensive line is going to be targeted by our great pass rushers, right? They're coming after him one way or another. We don't know yet, like you were mentioning. I don't know. What do you think they'll do? Bring pressure against Joe Burrow or kind of rush for and let the coverage fall into place? Because it's going to be interesting either way. When you have guys on wide receivers, pass catchers that the Bengals do, even when Joe Burrow is under pressure, he's going to be able to get the ball to somebody.
He's not easily confused, right?
Yeah.
And McDermott's scheme is very much designed to confuse the quarterback, especially in the protections, right? So you get a free runner at the quarterback. But Joe Burrow, he's just not easily confused. But I mean, getting into the Bengals a little bit, are they the same team that we've seen in previous years, right? It feels like they just showed us a great game of the Bengals of old, right, of last season or the year before against San Francisco. Before that, they started the season 1-3. Their only win coming against the Rams. They lost to the Browns, Ravens, Titans, got blown out by the Titans. And then a close win versus Seattle, and then just before that, pretty big win at Arizona. But, I mean, we haven't seen them. We know Joe Burrow's been injured, but they kind of started off slow last season as well and ended up, going really far in the playoffs, making it all the way to the championship game and almost getting to the Super Bowl again. Are the Bengals the same team that the Bills faced in the playoffs, or do you think they've taken a step back?
Again, the short answer for me is yes, they're the same team, right? This is a dominant offense. They have a very good defense. They're well-rounded. They are experienced. They're playing at home, which is an advantage for them here. I think that, when you put all of that together, it's certainly the beginning of this season doesn't matter. The Bengals are saying, who cares? They could be sitting in last place right now, and they're confident. Why? Because they've been here before. They know that their record right now does not matter. It's irrelevant. You want to have wins. You want to be in contention, but the record in October doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Your record coming at the end of December, going into the playoffs, that's what matters. And that's when your team needs to be clicking and playing well. Sure. The Bengals have already overcome adversity this season, already moving in the right direction. We're catching them at a bad time. I wish we played them week 2 when they were still injured, a little lost, feeling a little like they haven't found their rhythm. Right now, it feels like they're coming off a good game. They found their rhythm. They're building on it.
There's
and
belief.
We're the next piece in the way.
Yeah, that's a good point. Still, Cincinnati's 26 in the league in total offense. They have had a bye week, but there's plenty of teams who had a bye week above them. Chargers, yes. Texans, Seahawks, Cowboys, Buccaneers, all ahead of them in offensive yardage. Rushing, they're 31st in the league in rushing yards, right? So this is why I ask questions. Are they the same Bengals, or is it just the slow start?
I would argue,
they're averaging 18.7 points a game, which is 24th.
Again,
and then their scoring percentage, so how many drives turn into a score, they're 27th at 30%.
Again, though, all of those numbers to me are irrelevant. They mean nothing. You're trying to overbloat what the Bills could do. Oh, yeah, the Bengals have only scored this many. No, when they're clicking, they've scored 35 plus. The Bengals defense has given up, or the Bengals, what else did you say? Oh, they're 27th in rush yard. Well, yeah, because 31st. For 3 games, they had to pass the ball every play because they were down by 30 points, right. So they put themselves in a hole where they didn't run the ball the whole second half. They couldn't, right? So when you're in those positions and you're in those games and those losses, which have been very bad losses for the Bengals, there were reasons for it that are not the same now. This team now is not that team. all of those numbers mean nothing. They're irrelevant. Who cares? They're 27. Just like I said about DVOA. Oh, the Bills are number 2 in DVOA offensively. No, the Bills offense sucks right now. Again, same is true. The Bengals, oh, they're dead last and this, that, and the other thing. No, it doesn't matter because those stats are skewed by the in the moment situation and meaning game, like you're down 30 points. Of course, you're passing at every play and, situation, injuries and whatever else and overcoming all of that. So anything dealing with the Bengals.
Pat Mahomes having the flu, right?
We can't account for that. We have to look at this as a playoff caliber matchup, right? This team is a dominant team.
We know what they're capable of.
Yes,
right.
And this is who they are. Like I said, the momentum is carrying them back to that team, right? We know what they can do.
Yeah, they're certainly feeling the pressure. They're at the bottom of the AFC North. Cleveland, Pittsburgh, same record as them. So these games really matter. Baltimore sitting at the top, but if Cincinnati is going to be, a team that's going to make a playoff run, they got to get there first, right? And the competition looking pretty fierce. I don't think these teams have played each other a whole lot, so I think there's still a lot of games on the schedule for the AFC North. So Cincinnati feeling that pressure, and I feel like that's when they start to put it together, right? When things are tough, they go on a run, right? Saw that last year. They started 0-2. A lot of people counted them out, but then they came back, had a great record, had a great season, right? So it almost feels like that's happening again from what they did to San Francisco. But then again, San Francisco now lost 3 in a row. Could this be a fluke game? I mean, you're right about the stats being skewed, but the one thing that sticks out still is the 18 points per game for a Bengals team.
Again, when they're playing well and they have both of their receivers healthy, which now they do, and their quarterback healthy, how many points have they averaged? 35 plus. The 18 is irrelevant. It doesn't mean what you think it means. The scoring on only so many drives doesn't mean what you think it means. That's without T. Higgins. That's with an injured Joe Burrow. That's with a bad offense. All of those things, right?
You can say that about every team. So I see what you're saying.
Sure you can, but the Bengals, this is skewed, right? They're healthy. The Bills are not getting Trey White back. The Bills
can also be skewed for every team, but you're just going off what they're capable of doing based on historical information.
And what they've done. The last game, when they're getting healthy, they've scored 30-plus points. When they're getting healthy, their offense is doing what you expect it to do. Higgins and Chase are putting up the numbers you expect them to do, right? And Boyd and everybody else on that team. So it's not about, and Burrow especially, right? Those first 3 games were an absolute mess for them, right? And it was not the start of the season they want. But right now, health-wise, what they're capable of, what they look like, they are at their peak. The Bills are not, right? Our defense is down 2 notches from where we started the season just based on injuries alone, if not more, right? You lost Trey White. You lost Matt Milano. Our defensive expectations have dropped sadly, right? But that doesn't mean our defense isn't capable of hanging with a team like Joe Burrow and the Bengals. So we have to be able to show that. But the Bengals right now are only where they belong at the top tier. All those stats, everything is skewed. It's not what you think it means.
It's also skewed for the Bills, right? It's the same exact conversation for the Bills.
But the Bills are inconsistent right now.
Exactly.
We don't know what we are.
We know what they're capable of. They're capable of, blowing out Miami by 30 points, right? So you think they could absolutely go toe-to-toe.
I mean, come on.
But we've seen it, right? We've seen this team put it together, and when they put it together, they're right in the conversation for best team in the AFC.
Yes, we all know they're certainly capable.
Which team are you going to get? Right. It's the same conversation almost. Mm-hmm. So that's why this one's fun. And again, these two teams have been competitors, for the Super Bowl the last 2 or 3 seasons. Bengals making it there, but I fully expect them to be in the mix at the end, which is my point is this game's so important, right?
Yes.
Especially because I think both teams have 2 division losses, right? 1 win, 2 losses. So this one,
that's the other
very
thing.
important.
Yeah, you're talking tiebreakers. The Bills have lost to AFC teams, right? This is division.
So have the Bengals.
Is not good. Yeah. Well, that division is a slugfest, though. They're going to win games back and forth, and we talked about that in the preseason. Bengals are in last place right now, which is exactly what we said. Each of those teams would rotate into last place at some point in time. Right now, the Ravens are the most consistent, but I still expect that the Bengals are going to win the division and come back and beat the Ravens.
I think Baltimore's got a what?
2-game lead right now.
2 game. Yeah, it's going to be tough to catch them. They're a good team. Their defense is phenomenal. But yeah,
again,
that's
you
definitely
talk
fun to
about
watch. But
Mhm, mhm.
we're going to get to Miami and Kansas City, which will have an impact. The winner of this Cincinnati Buffalo game is going to benefit the most of any other game this week, I feel like.
I would
Right?
agree,
Because
and it's the
they're going to be
Sunday
in the
night
mix.
games, so we're
Right.
gonna already know the results of most of them.
Yes. Yeah. So a lot of fun. Let's go ahead and make the pick. What do you
Yeah,
got here? So Buffalo is +2 at Cincinnati. And we know you marked this one as a loss, right?
I did.
But if you're putting your money on it, where are you going?
Oh, honestly, objectively, I'm not putting money on it, right? So if I was, even if this wasn't my team or whatever, this is too close of a matchup. The line is too close. +2 to Buffalo makes me favor Buffalo just because they're getting points. I would say the same thing if it was Cincinnati +2, because I expect it to be a shootout. And to me, this feels like it could be a 28-27 game. Pick your team, right? So I do think I am going to take in my picks. Obviously, I took Buffalo with the points +2, and I took Buffalo to win. But I do think it's going to be pretty close game, 28-27, 31-30, something like that. So give me a slugfest. Let's see the shootout. Hopefully, it's entertaining. And yeah, Bills going
Yeah.
against my own pick of the loss.
And we know it's going to come down to a field goal game. So,
Yeah.
if I picked Cincinnati, it wouldn't be that weird, right? But I really feel this way. Like the Bills have this one marked. They know the importance of it. They were embarrassed last week.
Mm-hmm.
You got Tyler Boyd, saying, "Oh, the Bills players are blaming the snow." Well, there's no snow here in Cincinnati right now. So, I think all those things combined, the media doubt they've had, the inconsistency they've had, I think the Bills are definitely going to have a great game plan. Come down there, play mistake free. Josh is going to make some plays, and I think they make one more play than the Bengals. Right? We've really only seen the
All it
Bengals
takes.
have
Yeah.
one good win this year, and that was last week. Right? And San Francisco's now in its third loss. So I mean, is it an outlier? We really don't know. Right? But
Yeah, you bring up a great point that the two kickers actually could have a very impactful meaning in this game. They can both kick from anywhere on the field, right?
Yeah.
You're going to go for the field goal for the win, and it's a matter of Cincinnati's got the chance for a 60-yard field goal and they miss, or Buffalo's got the chance for a field goal and they win. Not necessarily at the last second either. I mean, it could be in the third quarter you make a field goal and then the score ends up 31-30. That's going to matter, or you miss a field goal and those points are going to matter.
Right. And that's exactly what the Bills do, right? They're going to beat Cincinnati in the regular season, then they're going to lose in the playoffs to Cincinnati because that's just what
Don't
we
say
do.
that, man.
Been doing it to
I
Kansas
don't want
City
to
for
play
years.
Cincy in the playoffs. Please don't let us play Cincy in the playoffs. I'd rather play Kansas City in the playoffs than Cincy.
For sure. But yeah, great game. Looking forward to it. And this one really decides what the Bills are going to have to do moving forward. Are you going to have to? There's going to be a lot of must-win games coming up if you lose this one, or if you go
Right.
5-4.
But
if you get the win, you're feeling good. You're in a better spot.
Again, we went through the wins and losses last week. I'm not hitting the panic button if the Bills lose this game, right? If they lose it miserably and look embarrassed, that's bad. Then we're trying to figure it out and you're like, oh crap, what are we going to do? And then it's going to be the same story of, well, now we're playing inferior opponents and we eke out a win or whatever. At that point, it's just get wins and get there, right? And figure it out as you go. But I don't expect that to be the case. I would be shocked if the Bills get embarrassed by Cincinnati and don't put up a back and forth game at least.
Right. It almost feels like a tone setter for the Bills as they get to the tougher part of the schedule.
Correct.
But this win would be huge for them. And Cincinnati fans are saying the same thing about their team.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why this one's fun. Really looking forward to it. Sunday Night Football.
I know. What a Sunday night game. Finally. This is another one like, woo. This is what the NFL wanted this game to be and more. They probably thought both teams would be at the top of their division, but instead it's momentum still.
You got to think this would be the most watched game so far this year.
I hope so, yeah.
Anyway, moving on to the other games, we have 9:30 in Germany, which is just, look, Miami doesn't have to go to Kansas City, but Buffalo goes to Kansas City every year for 4 years. Like,
I know.
Anyway, Miami at Kansas City. This is for the AFC right now, right? Huge matchup. It's in a neutral field. Kansas City coming off a really bad loss, and Miami looking to get a good win, right? They have the narrative around them is they haven't beat a good team yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is another opportunity for them. Wrong screen. Pulling up the records here. So yeah, Miami 6-2, Kansas City 6-2. if they lose this and Buffalo wins, still one game behind for the AFC East. Kansas City sitting tight, right? They're good. They could take a loss and still be 2-game lead in the AFC West. So more important for Miami
divisional
at this point, but
and seeding
of football to be played.
expectations, right? You're talking about the number one seed potentially.
Sure.
There's a lot of seeding implications with this game for sure, which is why both teams would like to beat this opponent for sure. But to me,
Hill, right? Good storyline there.
Tyreek Hill returning into play Kansas City in Germany, right? The big storyline here is that it's an overseas game, and both teams traveled obviously to Europe. Kansas City pulled the Bills and waited till the last minute to go. So I don't know if they lost that script or they slept through that week because they were busy watching other things, but that doesn't tend to bode well for a team who's trying to travel and get a win, and the energy of the team and guys who don't sleep well on the plane, etc. I mean, again, common sense would tell you that much. So I think that is going to give Miami a little bit of an edge in this game. The fact that Tyreek Hill is playing Kansas City for the first time, dude has been averaging 200 yards a game. I think he's going to put up even more in this one, no matter how many guys they throw on him. He's going to want the ball, and he's going to be at his highest level of energy to play for this game. And I'm sure he still has love for a lot of those guys, but he still wants to put it to them. So, and that's the difference to me in this one. Kansas City's defense, although good, is still vulnerable, especially to me at those two wide out positions. Even if they do cover Tyreek Hill, well, then Waddle's going to have a huge game, and that's still going to bode well for Miami in that case.
We know those guys are weapons, and Kansas City's defense has actually been playing really well this year.
Yes.
But those multiple looks, right? Tua's going to have to do a lot of protections at the line. Probably going to have to go through multiple reads, right? Just because, the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs will throw all kinds of different stuff. He mixes it up a lot, right? So really this game for me comes down to, can Tua, just play the game he's been playing all year? Or are we going to see the Tua that struggles and is not aggressive in the right moments? The Bills game in particular was one read, ball knocked down, one read wasn't there, take a sack. Is it going to be that type of game, right? So we know Pat Mahomes will be on his game after the loss. They're going to have a great game plan. Kelsey's going to be involved, probably a lot of Rashee Rice, and then the running backs for them. So I think Kansas City is definitely going to score some points. Can Miami keep pace? And I think that's what this game is right now. And I know this Kansas City team's not the most talented. It's harder for them to move the ball than it has been in the past. But when they're coming off a loss, which is rare, I think they're going to have a great game plan, and they're going to execute. That's just what they do, right? I don't bet against the Chiefs.
It's tough, but again, because of the travel schedule, we saw how sleepy the Bills looked coming into the game when they waited till Friday to travel. Kansas City's doing the same thing, and I feel like you're going to see those effects. And Miami, a high-scoring offense that is capable of attacking you on many levels, is going to jump all over that and try to do the same thing that happened to the Bills and take that advantage. So, again, I'm picking Miami. I expect this to be a great game. And up early in the morning, we get to start off the football day with this one. So hopefully it, pays off.
Yep. High cholesterol at 9:30. It's going to be good. I'd take Kansas City, though. I just think
it's hard to bet against Kansas City.
It's hard to bet against them, and I don't want to say Tua's been bad against good defenses, but because that's really not the case. He's been great all year, and he's a good quarterback. But at times, when the one read's not there, he's got to get to sack 2 and 3. And I think this is just a tough matchup for him. Just the style of the Kansas City defense. But we'll see what they dial up. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, getting through the other games here. We have the Arizona Cardinals at the Cleveland Browns. Arizona gets 8 points in this one. Who you taking? Josh Dobbs is gone now, so I don't even know who's playing quarterback for the Cardinals. I'm pretty sure it's Caleb Williams already, but he's just sitting the bench.
It's Caleb Williams. Yeah. It's the rookie. Oh, what's his name? They drafted. He's going to get the start. Yeah, this is what I was going to say about this game is now it's time for the Cardinals to come back down to earth. Josh Dobbs was playing out of his shoes for this team and getting blood from a stone. I think with them staying competitive in games, winning versus Dallas. that was all on him. So now that he's gone, I expect that the Cardinals are going to fall hard to earth. So we're not sure. Deshaun Watson likely not playing in this game. Doesn't matter to me.
He did return to practice.
He did today, but I heard, I don't know, he might not play. Even if he doesn't, my point is the Cardinals are not going to be capable of moving the ball anymore. And that's going to limit them. So give me Cleveland, with -8 here at home. I just think Arizona's gonna be facing the grindstone and being more of what we expected them to be and talked about them being in the preseason, which is a lesser class NFL team, to say the least.
Yep, and Cleveland Browns currently the number 1 defense in the league. Again, the bye week they had is helping them with that, but they have a clear lead in least yards allowed. So that's going to be a tough challenge for Arizona. Cleveland gets to 5-3. I agree. I would take Cleveland, to win by 8. Got to get Deshaun Watson back, though. I feel like this team could really compete. They've really won a lot of games without him, but if he can get back to even 3/4 of what he was before.
Well, I think that's been his problem. Whatever he was doing this year, he wasn't playing well this year. He needs to get back to his
reps.
Playing at 100% and healthy and being able to find that swing again. Yeah, especially if they're going to make a playoff run.
Sure. But rooting for him, Detroit, the Browns, it's been a fun season so far. All right, the Rams at the Green Bay Packers. The Rams are +3, headed to Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Again, still waiting for Jordan Love here to do something. Meanwhile, the Rams, getting blown out again last week.
Well, yeah. I'm not sure if you saw any of that game, but it was a rough start from the beginning. Yes. The defense of Dallas just absolutely pummeled them. They never found their toes. They couldn't launch. It was rough. And by the time they did, Matt Stafford ends up getting hurt or extending his injury that he had. And it really shut down the Rams. However, coming into this game, I think the Rams are going to be a little more prepared, even if Stafford doesn't go, which I think is the expectation still at this point. The Green Bay Packers are suffering right now, right? They are who I thought they were, which is not a good team. So, and that is, I've expected them to finish last in the division. They're looking like a last place team. Jordan Love, it's not fully his fault, but he hasn't been able to get it going. They have offensive weapons that haven't been playing up to expectations. Their defense now, remember, they traded Rasul Douglas to the Bills, so he's gone, right? So what's going to happen at cornerback now? He was one of their leaders defensively in the locker room. What's going to happen there? They have a very young team. To me, this screams that the Rams can capitalize on this and get back to form and play their style of football, run the ball, grind out points, do what they can to keep the sticks moving, play good defense. And, that's going to be good enough against this Green Bay team. So I expect the Rams to win. So I'm taking the Rams with the points at +3.
Tough one.
It is. Lots of tough matchups this week, by the way.
Right. And like the status of Aaron Jones has been he's been back, but really hasn't been getting a lot of carries. So it's AJ Dillon and then waiting for Christian Watson to keep, show off that athleticism, but it seems like they can't get him the football. I think Green Bay's offensive problems are well known at this point, right? I'll take the Rams on the road here, bounce back game. It's a bounce back league. I definitely believe that. So coming off the embarrassing loss, I think they get back and McVay can always dial up an offense and they can always move the football. They do have a lot of speed at receiver, so I think that's a good matchup for the Rams. And I just think Green Bay's just lost their offense. They don't even know what they're doing anymore. So give me the Rams. All right, Falcons at is it Jaron Hall-led Minnesota Vikings?
Or Josh Dobbs. We don't know yet.
Or Josh Dobbs. Yeah, probably not up to speed yet. So we're going to see Jaron Hall. I think he was Michigan State, if I'm right.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Atlanta +4 in this game.
Yeah. This is tough pill for me to swallow. That Kirk Cousins, who obviously I've been very high on the Vikings and what they're capable of. He has proven his leadership, suffering the season-ending injury. Really rough way to end his season. And for Minnesota, that leaves a lot of uncertainty. I like their trade for Dobbs because, like I said, he was playing his shoes off over there in Arizona. And I think he has a better team, certainly weapons-wise, around him in Minnesota, especially when Jefferson comes back. But even the way Addison has been playing, they've been able to produce with him, and they've been able to do what it takes to win close games. However, I just think Atlanta has also been scrapping, trying to find their way, and Minnesota's defense has not been exponentially, increasing and doing well. So I think the Falcons have the advantage here just for that reason. And when Josh Dobbs gets in there, I am confident that he'll be able to move the offense for Minnesota. But right now, I'm not. And so I have to give the Falcons the edge, and I'll take Atlanta -4 in this one.
Yep, and Jaron Hall from BYU.
BYU, that
name looks good in Michigan, but BYU. I definitely going Falcons here, just because I feel like the Vikings are going to have to reinvent themselves a little bit. I think having Cam Akers come over is a good move now. You can kind of rely on that 1-2 punch, Madison, Cam Akers. That's probably the way you're going to have to go. And who knows what, Justin Jefferson, if he comes back this year, what's that going to look like? But right now, they're going to go through a little bit of a crisis, in my opinion. So I'm going to take Atlanta on this one. And then probably the Vikings season over, right? No more playoff hopes, right?
No, they're absolutely still in the playoff hunt. This is the NFC you're talking about, and Dobbs has been playing well. I do think they're still in the playoff hunt. They're in second place. Right now they're 4-4. Who's the wild cards? And you don't have it pulled up here, but San Francisco has the plus, Dallas has the plus, and Minnesota. So Minnesota is the 7th seed right now.
But you're also assuming they stay 500 through the season. I'm expecting them to lose a lot more, right? With Kirk Cousins out. But which team steps up? That's the question. We don't really know, right? It's probably Tampa. Could Tampa get more wins than Minnesota? Not a lot of good options here. Maybe
yeah, exactly. The
Commanders
NFC is wide open. That's what I've been telling you. Yeah. I've been trying to say that. But they have a chance. Absolutely. If Dobbs comes in and even can be just competent in that offense, again, compared to what he was doing in Arizona, if he just carries that over, this team is still going to be very good on offense. They take a step back without Kirk Cousins because he's the veteran. He knows that team well. But it's not a huge step back when you get a competent guy in there.
Yeah, I'm not buying it. I'm selling on that.
All right.
I'll take Tampa or the Commanders.
They have a chance to beat the Falcons this week. I'm telling you. Again, they have a chance. With a rookie who we don't know what to expect from, they still have a chance to win that game. But it's their defense I'm worried about, and that's why I'm picking the Falcons.
Every team has a chance, but Falcons is much more likely. All right, here we go. Chicago at New Orleans. Chicago plus 8.5 going down to New Orleans. Is New Orleans that team that makes the playoffs? They're probably to be a division winner. I think they're going to run away with it.
Yeah, I expect that they'll be there when the dust settles at the end of the year and win the division with a barely over 500 record, which is fine, right? That's what counts. They're good enough to do that. They certainly, again, we've said it week after week, they haven't found their stride with Carr at quarterback and finding, what, again, he had the injury, which was a little bit of a setback. But when you have Michael Thomas, Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara, lots of pieces on that offense, and the defense is good, one of the top 5, it's going to be a good recipe for putting together wins. And we haven't seen them at their best yet, which is kind of a scary thought for their opponents coming up. And this Bears game is no exception to that. Even though they're 8.5-point underdogs, I'm taking the Saints -8.5 because I think, they're just going to be able to control the pace on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I agree. I think New Orleans is really a balanced team, can do a lot of different things. And Justin Fields is doubtful for Sunday, so give me the Saints. All right, Washington Commanders, who sold their defensive line over the weekend.
Yeah.
Or Monday, Tuesday. Going to New England. Washington +3 at New England. What are we thinking here? I thought Washington played Philly really tough. Probably their best game of the year.
Oh, offensively, yeah. They play that team really, really well. But
Chase Young gone, Montez Sweat gone.
New England, kind of a different story there. I think that, and this game is in New England, now that they've destroyed their defensive line, they're going to be vulnerable to the run. They're going to be vulnerable against the run. And The Patriots, what do? They like to run the ball. They're down a wide receiver, doesn't matter. They like to run the ball. Henry's still there. He can get open. Yeah, they're going to find ways to advantage their offense, right? To capitalize their offense, especially against this Washington team. Their defense, we always know the Bill Belichick-led defense is good, right? So I don't expect Washington to do what they did against a divisional opponent that they know well and play well against in Philly. All of their offensive players had a pretty good game, and that's stat-wise. But and Howell looked all the part. But I don't think he's going to be able to replicate that against New England. So I expect New England to win this game and kind of make Washington look like they've taken that step back after, what they did at the trade deadline. So give me New England -3 in this one. I expect them to win by 10.
Okay, yeah, I like what you're saying. But this is still Ron Rivera, right? A lot of experience there in the defensive side of the ball. They still have Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne in the middle, two of the best defensive tackles in the league. There's still some – look, you don't have to do a lot to stop New England's offense unless they come out with a great game plan like they did versus Buffalo. But for the most of the season, we have seen little to no production from the Patriots.
That's fair.
Offense.
Yeah.
So I think Washington gets a little more production on offense, and that Washington defense can do enough to slow down Mac Jones and company. So I'm taking Washington in this one, and they're right back in the playoff mix. I mean, they probably don't want to be.
I hope you're right, just because, of course, we want New England to lose.
Yes, but I think they know new ownership, trading away 2 defensive stars, which I think is really a move to spread the money around a little bit, right? Get some other positions.
Sure.
You don't need all your money in one group. But the team could see that, hey, we're playing for our jobs here, right? So they could definitely do it that way. Sam Howell had his best game as a pro versus the best defense in the league. I know it's a division rival. There's a little more preparation and familiarity there. But, like what Washington's doing, I think they can pull out this win. All right, Buccaneers at the Texans. Buccaneers +3 at Houston. Kind of a surprising line, but then you go back and look and see, okay, Buccaneers have lost, 2 or 3 in a row now. And C.J. Stroud looking pretty good still. So.
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough loss for the Texans last week against Carolina, and for me, because I picked them as my big bet of the week, and they lost to Carolina, a winless team, which was rough. However, I still think what they're capable of is going to be good enough to get them some wins. Tampa Bay, I don't like this line, actually, because Tampa Bay has been good enough as well to stay in the hunt in games, keeping it close against Buffalo, coming back. I feel like they're going to do the same thing versus the Texans here. So the line with Tampa Bay getting 3 is close to where I am for this game. And I think that's true of a lot of these games, but I'm still taking the Texans -3, but it's not one of my favorite picks this week.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Tampa. Just they're in the mix for the playoffs. I think they got to snap this losing streak, right? I think they do enough to pull this one out. Maybe get a couple mistakes from the Houston offense, because look, it's Devin White back there, maybe Vita Vea coming back. I think that helps them. So I think Todd Bowles can confuse them a little bit and get the turnover they need and get the win. All right, Seattle at Baltimore. Great matchup here. Seattle's +6 at Baltimore. I feel like these teams are more evenly matched than people think, right? Seattle's a very physical football team this year, right? They can run the ball. They have 2 great backs, obviously great receiving core. Defense is looking good. They bring over Leonard Williams from the Giants, which fills a big need for them. But Devin Witherspoon's playing great for Seattle. I think Jamal Adams still playing, right? I've been in and out with injuries and things, but I think he's still in the mix there. I mean, that's a pretty solid group in Seattle. Yes. And obviously we all know Baltimore's a solid team, arguably the team to beat in the AFC. Are we going that far with Baltimore?
I mean, they're my AFC championship matchup against the Bills. It's a preseason pick, right? So, I mean, I believe they are that team. Now, I picked them to be the wild card and not the winner of their own division, but now it's looking like they're good enough to win the division and get going into the playoffs. I don't think they're the top of the AFC yet, right? That conversation still belongs with the Bills, Bengals, and Kansas City, and now Miami's in the mix. Miami and Baltimore are still the kind of, you got to prove it going into the playoffs.
Right.
Finish the year in that position, and then we'll believe you, right?
Right.
So
don't forget about Jacksonville.
They're still good enough to be in the conversation. Jacksonville's the same, though. Yes, they're a playoff team, and they're the team that I picked to be the number 1 seed, which I still
due
think
to
they could be.
schedule could be the top, right?
That's exactly what I said in the preseason,
Yeah,
right?
same.
They have easy opponents. They are capable. They're going to wins is what matters for the number 1 seed, and they're going to have a lot of those going at the end of the year. Versus Baltimore, who's playing in a very tough division. I don't think they'll be competitive for the 1 seed, even though they might win the division. And this is another one of those games that's going to be pretty close, I think. I think Baltimore wins the game, but the line is too many points to Seattle, so I'll take Seattle with the points. I think they are capable of beating the Ravens. It wouldn't be a shocker if they did, but right now the Ravens are playing very well rounded, and I think they're going to be able to score and keep that offense going. It's going to be a high scoring game in my mind, but I'll take Seattle with the points, but Baltimore to win the game.
This matchup feels like a Pete Carroll game, right? Doesn't it? It's going to be tough defense.
Yeah.
Both defenses are going to, stop the offenses, be a low scoring game. It'll come down to Geno Smith having the ball at the end. And that's where it gets weird, right? Can he finish the drives? Russell Wilson did it often, right? But Geno seems to be struggling with that more times than not. So I'm saying Geno drives him down and comes up a little short, and it's a 3-point game. Still get the point. So I'll take Seattle. But that's just what it feels like for me. Going with my gut on that one. All right, Colts at Panthers. Indianapolis -2.5 at Carolina.
Yeah.
Can Carolina get their second win?
Yes, I do think Carolina can get their second win here. Indy has been playing up and down all year. They've scored consistently. I think they're the most consistent scoring team in the NFL right now, in terms of points per game. But I don't know. And Carolina, going into last week had 0 wins. But if you look at the guys on the team, Adam Thielen's having a pretty good year. They're capable of running the ball and making plays. Their defense is playing okay. This to me is one of those games where neither team is great. Both are capable, but at is a big thing here, and Carolina's playing home. So I'm going to pick the Panthers to win this one and by more than 3. So give me Carolina with the minus or +2.5. So I think they're going to win.
Yeah, I'm taking the Colts just because Jonathan Taylor looks like he's heating up a little bit, and this Colts defense is scrappy. So yeah, I like the Colts in this one, and do we really care?
No, exactly. It's kind of a irrelevant but close game. Speaking of, let's go to the next one.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Giants at the coachless Las Vegas Raiders. And this could be a tricky game, right?
I know.
We've seen coaches get fired. The interim coach usually
bounce back. Yeah,
can pull it off, right? It's kind of one of those weird things in the NFL. But again, I feel like the Giants have been playing tough this year, just not getting the job done. Whether that's because Daniel Jones is out, but we have seen them play tough, right? They're just coming up short, can't score points. So what do you feel on this one? This one seems closer than some others.
Well, at least they have a quarterback that they're confident in throwing the ball, I would hope, in Daniel Jones, although I don't know. That was an embarrassing loss to the Jets for the Giants. Their season is over no matter what now, so
yes,
it doesn't matter. Now you look at the Raiders, their season is over. They're not trying to win games, but they might win this one. So to me, this is again, I don't want to pick either of these teams to win. And given the circumstances of Daniel Jones coming back and the Raiders not being able to figure things out on offense. Again, I don't want to pick either one. I don't even remember what I picked on Tally's site, to be honest with you. Geez, Giants are getting the points, so I'll take the Giants.
Are we getting Tyrod Taylor again?
He's injured right now, but Daniel Jones is playing, so
okay, Daniel Jones is back. Yeah, so I'm taking the Giants.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones is a difference maker for that team, right? We've seen him put the team on the back and
he
pull off some
victories. He can still
right.
Yeah.
He's a pretty elusive player. It's not always pretty with him, but I think he can get the job done versus this Raiders team who's now in F-it mode, right?
Mm-hmm.
And really, they weren't too far out of the mix if you really think about it, right? The AFC East and the AFC North are going to beat each other up, and those are going to be, maybe some 500 teams getting in. The Raiders right there, 3-4, right? But yeah, they've had some tough losses, and there's a lot more issues there. But nice for the Raiders, though. Get a clean slate, right? It'll probably be looking for a quarterback, obviously going to get a new head coach, but it'll be interesting to see what their strategy is from here. Because now I think I saw they're paying John Gruden and Josh McDaniels $80 million to not coach the team. So it's, any direction's got to be better than here.
Talk about a bad gamble in Vegas, right?
Yes. All right, 2 more here. We have probably the matchup of the week outside of Bills, and Miami and the Chiefs, but Dallas at Philadelphia, it's a must-watch game. This is it for the division. Dallas has been hot. When their defense is on, they're the best defense in the league, in my opinion. I don't think there's any question because they're so fast.
They can take away the ball. Unbearable. They can capitalize. They put you in bad situations where you're playing their style of offense, and that's not good.
So it's the ultimate, beef versus finesse, right? The Dallas defense is very finesse, very fast, whereas the Philadelphia defense is very big, very powerful, right? So this is a really good matchup. And, I really trust Philadelphia to make more offensive plays. To be honest, I think they have the advantage there, plus home field. So I'll take Philly at home.
Yeah, I definitely think that this line isn't big enough. Philly should be a 7-point favorite in this game. Dallas's defense is very good, but so is Philly's. Philly's offense, however, is much better than Dallas's in my mind, and that's why I'm taking Philly -3. I expect them to win by 7 to 10 points.
Yeah, but what an opportunity for Dallas, right? You get this win, you got momentum. I think the division is in sight at that point. Let's take a look at the records here.
Perfect time for them to
5-2. It could be 6-2, knock Philly to 7-2. Philly will have the bye week eventually. So yeah, they're right in the mix, right? So it's a big game for Dallas.
It has flop all over it written for Dallas. So they have to capitalize, but yeah, we'll see.
All right, another primetime game for the Jets, and it's another primetime game at MetLife Stadium, which all games at MetLife Stadium this year have been horrible. So Chargers traveling to New Jersey to take on the Jets. And this kind of feels like a mirror image game. Like both teams looking at each other going like, are we the same? Kind of look like they're the same here. We do some things really well, but this can't finish the game.
Spider-Man.
Yeah. Can't finish the game. So again, tough one because we've just seen the Jets, pull out some miracle wins, right? The team's believing, but again, Justin Herbert,
the defense is legit. The defense is legit.
They are.
I saw one of those spray charts of cornerbacks and how they do against the pass or whatever. All 3 of the Jets defensive backs are like up top of the chart. They're incredible, right? Their defense is legitimate, no question about it. And the Chargers rely on their offense to be what wins them games. However, the Jets' offense is just so anemic.
Yeah.
I mean,
we always say when we're watching them play that Zach Wilson's their worst player.
It's so hard to watch because you're like, oh, their defense is so good. The Chargers find unique ways to lose games every single week. If the Chargers were the Giants last week, that wouldn't have surprised me, right? But this matchup is another one where I don't want to pick either team, but I do think the Chargers are good enough offensively and the Jets are not, that it's going to be a low scoring game, but maybe they'll win, 17-6 or something. So give me the Chargers -3.5. And if they lose, I don't really care.
Well, I was going to say this is a tough quarterback matchup for the Jets defense, but then I went back and looked. Yes, they got 3 interceptions from Josh Allen, got the win, right, without Aaron Rodgers. It came down to the final play for the Chiefs, right? It's 23-20. So I don't think this Jets defense is intimidated by Justin Herbert. And like we've seen, the Chargers will find a way to lose, especially against a very challenging defense, right? So I'm taking the Jets at home in a close one.
Wow. Okay. With the points or to win?
Yeah.
You actually
let's say 17-10 Jets.
Oh, wow. Okay.
17 season high. No.
I like it. Yeah. Do the Chargers start firing people after this?
I think so.
Yeah.
Right. I had them as a playoff team. I mean, they're still in the hunt here.
There.
But this win would get them back to 4-4, and that's huge. But just don't see it. Right. I just think that it's a challenging matchup for the Chargers on offense, and the Chargers find a way to lose.
Exactly. Yeah, they're out of it. Yeah, we'll see. It's good matchups this week. Not necessarily all fun to watch, but man, there's 3 really, really great games to watch. Some that are like vomit to watch. Like okay, somebody's got to win this game, much like a couple of the matchups last week. But like you said, we're separating the true contenders now this week. Not necessarily in the wins and losses, but how do they look in those games, and are you who we thought you were?
For sure. Yeah, it's rise to the top, right? There's going to be a split. Said it early in the show. This is the week where you start to see some clear separation, right? Who's going to be a wild card team? Who's going to be in the mix for the 1 seed? But there's these good matchups, right? This is who you find out the good teams are. It comes down to just a handful of games, and I think there's a lot of great matchups this week to make those decisions, right? Bills, Bengals, one of them for sure. Bills definitely need the win. This would be huge for them.
Oh gosh, yes, it would be, and they've got to play well. They've got to play well. If they don't, then there's going to be a lot of uproar and a lot of questions, rightfully so. But I'm confident that they're moving in the right direction, and hopefully they play consistently enough to beat the Bengals.
Yep, good point. And for the Bills' benefit, which loss is better, Chiefs or Dolphins? In your opinion?
The Dolphins, right? Actually, we were rooting for the Chiefs to win because you want the Dolphins, your divisional opponent, to lose. I would always defer to that.
Well, what's on the line here? Let's say Miami gets the 1 seed to get the first week bye. Buffalo could potentially get the 2 seed. It's a home playoff game. You're thinking the Bills are going to get into the 1 seed? No, that's a different story.
No.
Then you'd probably root for the Chiefs, right?
No, I'm thinking the Bills are going to win the division and play games at home. That's what I'm thinking. Yes. So I would rather the Chiefs be in contention for the 1 seed, which I still think Jacksonville is going to get anyway. The Bills end up the 3 seed, which is exactly where I had them anyway in the preseason, and still playing home games, right? When you win in the first round and the second round, right? And you're playing.
But if Kansas City gets the 1, now you have to go to Kansas City again.
Kansas City's going to lose in the first round of the playoffs, so you're playing a home game both times. That'll be nice.
I don't know. It's one of those weird weeks you might want to root for the Dolphins. I don't know why my brain keeps going that way. I just don't. We don't want the Chiefs to have the 1 seed.
On paper,
I'd love to see the Chiefs come to Buffalo for once, or go to Miami or somewhere else. Right?
Exactly. I mean, there's going to be other opportunities for Miami to lose, and I did pick them to win this game. I think they're going to win this game, but ultimately, on paper, you want Miami to lose. That's what the Bills would want. In their rooms, they're saying, we want Miami to lose this game to Kansas City, because what Kansas City does is irrelevant to what your division is doing.
Fair.
Not to the playoff seeding, but to what your division is doing. Let somebody else beat Kansas. Let the Denvers of the world beat Kansas City. We need them to beat Miami. We'll see.
Yeah, because Miami has the Raiders, Jets, Commanders, Titans, Jets again. So a little drop off there for them, right? They got through the tough part of their schedule. So this loss would be probably big for them. All right. That's it. We'll see you Tuesday and next Thursday, getting ready for week 10. We'll recap all the Bills, Bengals storylines, thoughts, analysis on Tuesday. Be sure to tune in with us, and be sure to check out Anthony's Pick 6.
Quick update. Thursday Night Football is 13-10 at the half. Tennessee right now. So it's close as we expected, but Tennessee field goal to take the lead before the half.
Every time.
I'm telling you, I don't know, but there's a lot of game left, obviously.
A lot of game left. It's pretty close score.
Update.
But
anyway, catch the Pick 6, and as always, thanks for kicking it with us.